You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. So Brian Kelly previewed spring. It was supposed to happen on Tuesday, but the inclement weather pushed the press conference to today, Wednesday, as LSU's on the practice field tomorrow, Thursday, for the first spring of the Brian Kelly era. First, Brian Kelly did talk about what he's liked from his team so far since he took over in December and they've gone through all of these preseason workouts.
I've been really pleased with the consistency of approach. Guys are certainly in a new environment with new standards, and like anybody else, it's been hard. It's not been easy for them. You know, we're all creatures of habit, and the habits that they had were different. And so there's been a give and take, a push and a pull, if you will. But I got to tell you, as I stand here before you, I don't know that I would be saying this, is that I'm really excited about the overall group in terms of their grit. They want to do this. This is important to them. Even though it hasn't been easy on a day-to-day basis.
They have been working, conditioning, getting ready for this spring, and it is interesting. Again, you're talking about a collective of players that have largely been together. Now, you do have some transfers, but you're talking about a collective of players largely that have been together, but a new coaching staff, a new voice, a new way of doing things, and that's all changing. Now, Brian Kelly did go through an injury update. Give a listen as he told you a mostly healthy roster, especially considering what he inherited back in December.
From an injury standpoint, we've got, I would say, Armani Goodwin is going to be back. He's healthy. I mean, I know he's a guy that's been out for a while. I think from defensive standpoint, I think we look pretty good across the board, other than Major Burns will probably, with his foot, not be available for us for most of the spring. Garrett Dellinger is coming back from shoulder surgery. He won't be available for us. But by and large, it looked like a very MASH kind of list when I got here. Looks really good, going into the spring in terms of having a number of players available.
For what it's worth, the rosters that were given us, Deion Smith, wide receiver, not on the roster. A lot of people have asked about Deion Smith when he announced he entered the portal. And then there was like that sort of cryptic Instagram video where he was coming back to Baton Rouge. And I told you then, it was just the end of the semester. Dude was just coming back to get the mini fridge. I mean, his stuff was here. It was. I don't know that he's thinking about returning to the football program, but no Deion Smith and no Joe Evans, which would be a loss. I mean, he's got played a lot of football on the defensive line for you. But Armani Goodwin, running back who battled a lot of injuries last year, he's good to go. And then the two that you're going to be without are Burns and Dellinger, one on each side of the ball. Interestingly enough, he didn't mention the best player on the team. That's Kayshon Boutte. It wasn't until the very last question of the press conference that Brian Kelly was asked about his relationship with Kayshon Boutte, who, if you remember, I want to refresh your memory, okay? Because I understand you go several weeks without talking about it, you're not thinking about it. It's baseball, it's basketball coaching search, March Madness, all that stuff. But Kayshon Boutte was gone. Kayshon Boutte was going to enter the portal, and I would bet my life savings he was going to be a receiver at Alabama right now, but for Gordon McKernan stepping in and signing him to a lucrative NIL deal to keep him here. But that said, Boutte has still had to go through an awful lot. The foot injury and getting reacclimated and having a new coaching staff and new coordinators and new everything, not knowing who his quarterback's going to be. The NIL deal kept him here, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's kept him happy. So there's your context, all right? Listen to Brian Kelly when he asked about his relationship with Kayshon Boutte.
We're in the process of building a relationship. We're, I would say, I know his last name right now. And I say that only because we're in that process of he's re-engaging. He's been injured. He's had a second surgery, but we're getting more acquainted every day. Look, he's a great player. He's a good kid, but this has been a rough spot for him. And what happens is you tend to get distracted because you're not involved in everything. But he's learning you got to be involved in everything, whether you're injured or not. And that's a process that he's going through, and we're seeing some really good changes. We had a nice conversation in the training room this morning where he's on top of his academics, and he's making good progress. But the good part about it is the surgery was successful. He's making good progress. He's in a walking boot right now, and that's really the most important thing. The rest of the stuff, we'll work it out between the two of us. I'm not that hard-headed. He's a good player.
I love to hear that. I'm not that hard-headed. He's a good player. Meaning, he knows he needs Kayshon Boutte. Y'all, LSU's scoring average dropped by a touchdown after Boutte's injury. When he played the first half of the season, was injured at Kentucky. It's not hard to see what happened to LSU offensively when Boutte got hurt. You lost the guy who tilts the field, the game breaker. You lost the most dynamic, explosive player on your entire roster. It ain't hard to see what happened, okay? So I love that Brian Kelly said that. It's like, I'm not going to run the best player. It reminded me of Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden, when Florida State was playing the national championship in New Orleans, 1999, they're playing Virginia Tech, and Sebastian Janikowski got in a fight on Bourbon Street, got arrested, something like that. Bobby Bowden was, I'm paraphrasing, hey, you going to suspend Janikowski? He said, heck no, I'm not going to cut off my nose to spite my face. He knew he needed it. He was an All-American kicker. He's playing for a national championship. Of course he's going to play the kid. And, of course, Brian Kelly needs Kayshon Boutte. The reason Brian Kelly is at LSU is because you can't get Kayshon Boutte up to South Bend, Indiana. That's why he's here. He's here to win a championship, and he knows he needs players. Brian Kelly even made a crack today where he was like, look, I understand you're not just going to win with great people. You need players. Not to say they can't be both, but he understands why he's here. He could win a lot of games at Notre Dame, but inevitably he would run up against an Alabama or a team like that in a playoff, a BCS scenario, and we saw how it would go. So you need Kayshon Boutte and Kayshon Boutte's. You need them on the roster. So good for Brian Kelly for recognizing that and trying to work it out. But similarly, there's a little bit of tough love there. He said, look, he's a good kid. He's a great player. And he's re-engaging. I think the hardest part for Boutte is, what do they say about idle minds? You're talking about a guy who's been hurt since the Kentucky game. The breaking news there from Brian Kelly is that Boutte had a second surgery, which nobody's really known about yet. So Boutte had the second surgery. He's in a walking boot. So, I mean, that Kentucky game, you're going back to October, November, December, January, February, March. You're talking 5 months, man. Almost half a year. This dude has been in a walking boot. He's been out of commission. He's not been able to play or practice. The coaching staff gets fired. A new coach comes in. He was going to leave, but now he's back. Gets the NIL. I mean, think about it. So that's what Brian Kelly's detailing, saying it's been a tough spot for him. He's been injured. He's been away. And now he's got to re-engage. The tough love that Brian Kelly said was like, you got to be involved in everything, whether you're injured or not. And that's part of the change of a different voice and a different culture, which Brian Kelly is changing. Ed Orgeron didn't have that, y'all. And it's obvious. I'm not here to kick Ed, but you're seeing a very obvious contrast in the way it was and the way it's going to be. And the way it was is why LSU ended up 500. And Brian Kelly's not coming in here to play that. But he knows he needs Kayshon Boutte, so he's got to find that balance to let this kid know we need you, but we need you also to play by the rules. And it sounds like Boutte is re-engaging. The great news is the second surgery went well. He's healing. He's got his academics in order. They had a good conversation today in the training room. That's going to be a process. It's going to be a process to develop to get Boutte on board. But look, I have a feeling Kayshon Boutte's out there at practice in his walking boot, and he watches 5 sling it around. It's Jaden Daniels is going to wear 5 here. Nussmeier switches number to 13. So you got Jaden Daniels out there wearing number 5, and he watches him sling it around. And he realizes what the possibilities are going to be for him in this offense. And these coaches can sit there and spell out to Kayshon Boutte, what the possibilities are in this offense for him in what is his money year. It's going to be pretty easy for him, I think, to re-engage once he's healthy, to get back out there and help this team win ball games in year 1 under Brian Kelly with Denbrock drawing up plays and what is going to make him the focal point of this offense. So, yes, Kayshon Boutte, that was fascinating to hear when Brian Kelly essentially said, look, I mean, I know his last name. That's about the extent of their relationship right now. That is going to be a work in progress, but it is going to be important that those two end up on the same page because Boutte is just a massive part of what LSU is and is going to be offensively. There's no way around that. He is the game breaker offensively for this team, and if he's not there, you are just not as good. There's no other way to say it. So, a very honest, realistic look at this situation, but also a situation where if you listen to the comment, you take it for face value, you can see that there's light at the end of the tunnel there with Kayshon Boutte. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.